This is Note-Taking Guide 2.10. Today we're going to learn how to solve systems of equation by an elimination method. So last time we used substitution, and that's easy to use when one of the equations is solved for one of the variables. But today we're going to look at solving them when neither of the equations are solved for a variable. So if you look at this, I want you to notice that the x's are lined up, the y's are lined up, the equal signs are lined up, and then the constants, the numbers, are lined up. When everything's lined up top to bottom like that, this is the best time to use a method called the elimination method. So I want you to just look at this for just a minute, and I want you to think, if I add these two equations straight down, will something cancel? Will one of the variables eliminate? Will it go away? And if you look at these, the y's right here, if I have a negative y and a positive y, those are going to cancel each other out. So that's what I want to do. I want to stack these equations so they're lined up, x's, y's, equals, numbers. And then I want to look at it and I want to see whether or not I can add them straight down and have the variables cancel. Well, in this case, those y's will cancel. So I'm going to add these equations straight down. I have 1x here and 1x here to add to be a 2x. I have a negative 1y here, a positive 1y here that cancel to be 0. And then I have 1 plus 3 here that adds to be 4. From there, I have this simple equation now that says 2x equals 4 that I know how to solve. I can divide both sides by 2, and I get x equals 2. Now, if you remember, we're always looking for an x comma y. We have our x, now we need to substitute back in and find a y. I always like to choose what I think is the simplest equation. I really like them when they don't have subtraction signs in them. So most of the time I'll pick something without a subtraction sign. So I'm going to go x plus y equals 3. I know my x value is 2. So 2 plus y equals 3. Subtract that 2 to the other side and I get y equals 1. So my ordered pair is 2 for x and 1 for y. So this is called the elimination method, where we can add straight down and have a variable cancel. Sometimes though, when we look at them, so these are lined up. This one's ready to go again. X's, Y's, equals, numbers. So lined up, ready to go. But when you look at it, if you add straight down, you're going to get 4x here. If you add straight down, you're going to get 5y here. So these are not going to eliminate by themselves by adding straight down. So what I want to do is I want to change one of the equations. I want to look at something. So I'm going to look at these x's for just a minute. What do I need this top x right there to be? Oops, let's see if I can get that back. All right, so what am I going to multiply this x through by to get it to cancel with these x's? So I need those to add straight down to give me 0 x's down here. So I know in order to do that, I need this to be a negative 3. But negative 3 is not there right now. What's there right now is a 1. So what am I going to multiply 1 by in order to get that to be a negative 3? Well, I'm going to multiply it through by negative 3. But if I do it to my x's in that equation, I actually have to do it to my entire equation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply that negative 3 through to the entire top equation, and I'm just going to rewrite it down here. So negative 3 times 1x is a negative 3x. Negative 3 times 3y is a negative 9y. And 29 times negative 3, just take a minute and plug that in on your calculator. So 29 times negative 3 is a negative 87. So right here, what I like to do is I like to put a line through this one to remind myself not to use it, because I just have rewritten two new equations here. I have the second equation and my new equation that I just wrote to add straight down to see if we can cancel a variable. And a variable should cancel because that's why I multiplied through by a number. So 3x and negative 3x, they cancel each other out. They're gone. Here, 2y minus 9y is a negative 7y. And then 10 and a negative 87 is a negative 77. Then I'm just going to finish solving this equation. So I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 7. And I get y equals 11. So I'm not all the way done here because if you remember, I need an x and a y. My y is 11, but I need an x value. So I'm going to go back up and I'm going to pick one of the two original equations to substitute back into. I'm going to go to that top one that said x plus 3y equals 29. And I'm going to substitute back in. So instead of y, I'm going to put 11. And I'm going to finish solving this equation. So x plus 3 times 11 is 33 equals 29. I'm going to subtract that 33 over. And when I do that, I get x equals -4. So my y value on this equation solution is going to be -4. I'm sorry, my x value. X is -4, y is 11. Okay, so again, sometimes they don't just add straight down. We're going to have to multiply an equation through by something to get that to work. So then sometimes, this is the third example here, we're going to have to multiply both equations through by something. So if you look at these, if you add those straight down right there, those are going to be 5. If you look at these, those are going to be -3. So neither of those are going to cancel for me right now. But I can't multiply 2 by something to get it to be 3. I mean, I can, but it's a decimal point number and I don't want to worry about that. I can't multiply 5 by a whole number to get to 2 or 2 to get to 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with a number that I can make both of them to be. I just like to pick one of the variables. In this case, I'm going to pick the y's. The reason I'm going to pick the y's is I already like that one of them's positive and one of them's negative. If one of them's positive and one of them's negative already, I don't have to worry about the signs. I just have to worry about the numbers. So I'm going to look at these and I'm going to say, okay, if I have a 5 and a 2, what number can they both become? And that number that I think of is going to be 10. So what number do I have to multiply 2 by to get to 10? I would have to multiply it by 5. So I'm going to multiply that entire equation through by 5 to get it to be 10. Then what do I have to multiply the 5 by to get it to be 10? That number is going to be 2. So I'm going to multiply this entire top equation through by 2. When I do that, that's going to make this right here a -10. And that's going to make this one right here a +10. And they're going to cancel for me the way I need them to. So let's just multiply these numbers through and rewrite it. So here I go. 2 times 2x is 4x. 2 times a -5y is a -10y. And 2 times a -23 is a -46. Now I have to rewrite the second equation multiplying through. So 5 times 3x is 15x. 5 times 2y is 10y. And 5 times 13, I have to punch that in the calculator, is 65. Now I'm going to add these straight down the way that they are and see if they cancel. So those 10s are going to be gone. They cancel, which is why I did this in the first place. Here I have 4 plus 15. That was a funny plus sign right there that kind of makes it look like 75, but it's not. It's 15. So 4 plus 15, that gives me 19x. And a -46 plus 65 gives me 19. Divide both sides by 19 and x equals 1. Now I'm looking for an x comma y. I have 1 for my x. I got to substitute back in to find for my y. So I'm going to just pick one of those equations. I'm just going to pick the top one this time and substitute in. And I'm going to put 1 in for x. So 2 times 1 minus 5 times y equals -23. So 2 minus 5y equals -23. I'm going to subtract the 2 over. So I get a -25 over here and a -5y over here. Divide both sides by -5 and y equals 5. So my y value is going to be 5. Okay. There's 2 problems here that are left to do that are your checkpoints to do. So I just want to talk you through them a little bit so you can get started on them, and then you can finish them and come check your answers with me, okay? So looking at these ones though, this one right here, if I add them straight down, that's going to give me 8 and that's going to give me -5. So neither of those are going to cancel the way that they are. So I have to decide if I'm going to get rid of my x's or my y's. I always like it when my signs are different. So I'm going to choose to get rid of my y's. It's just the way I like to do it. So look at your y's right here. If this is 6 and this is 1, can I multiply that bottom one through by 6? And then I'll have a 6 on the bottom and a -6 on the top, and I'll be able to get that new equation to cancel with the top one. So I would choose to multiply through by 6 on the bottom. Okay, so try that on this one and then come show me your answer. On this next one right here, look at this. These are very close to canceling. +2 and +2 though, they add straight down to be 4. But what I really need this one to be is a -2. Well, what do I multiply by in order to get that to be a -2? I just need to multiply it through by a -1. I'm going to multiply the entire equation through by a -1 and then rewrite it and add straight down with this top equation. So try that, see what you can do, bring it up and show it to me. Good luck on your homework, you guys.